Hello everyone, my name is Rashawn Trammell. I'm your oral comm instructor. Let's get started. So we're starting with chapter 1, talking about human communication. And this chapter is more like a theoretical, it addresses communication in more of a theoretical sense, like how do we communicate, what is it used for, that type of stuff. So we'll go into why we communicate, what exactly is defined as human communication, the process, how does human communication actually occur? Do both people talk at the same time and nobody listens? I don't know. We'll go into it. So next we'll discuss different types of communication. So whether it's communicating just you and one other person, you and multiple people, maybe you talking to people that you can't even hear their response. And we'll describe some things of a successful communicator, ethics in communication, how speaking with someone of a different background, the value in that, and also some things you may need to know when talking with people from a different culture. So some practical needs for communication. So this would help you in just daily tasks, so such as ordering lunch, maybe going into the gas station and saying, give me 5 on 6. Also, when people are not doing communicating practically well, you suffer, such as if someone is giving you bad directions, talking about, oh, you can't miss it, or they don't use clear terminology for things that you should see or landmarks. Also, practical communication can help prevent misunderstandings and problems before they escalate. Your professional needs for communication. So it will assist you in getting a job. So job interviews still exist. One of the reasons for people communicating with you is it helps them to believe that you can do what you say you can do, or it may be a way to test, okay, does this person really know what they're talking about? So as a professional, being able to communicate well, it helps back up maybe what you can already do and prove. So with professional tasks such as dealing with colleagues, customers, you've heard of teamwork. Well, part of teamwork is communication. Part of maybe explaining to a customer why they can't get that refund, or maybe explaining, maybe trying to sell something and articulating why this would be beneficial for them. Presentations or speeches, of course, communication is helpful for that. Sometimes you may be presenting an idea of why your group or your company should maybe pursue some course of action. The results of this: higher pay, more promotions, such as just talking about, okay, this is why I deserve more, this is the additional value that I'm bringing to the job. So higher grades, and yeah, sometimes students can explain maybe why, say, an answer isn't so clear-cut or so black and white, and just more overall success. So, yeah. I was thinking of the expression, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, but I don't know if that, anyway. So, going on to public needs. Excuse me. When you think of public needs, think of more like public responsibilities, civic responsibility, that type of thing. So, and when it talks about civic group participation, thinking more of like, say, working on the literacy council, or maybe some type of council to clean up, I don't know, Jefferson County, or Go Forward Pine Bluff. Yes, those things do require people to communicate, but also some things that are important elements of this particular aspect of it, giving you the means to speak up, to maybe defend, maybe defend someone or influence others towards something that's good for society as a whole. Uh, Also, the transmission of public of knowledge in a public context, just basically talking to people in public. So now, for your personal needs, it'll help you build and maintain relationships. So none of us who maybe have dated someone or married or whatever, most of us didn't get to that point without talking to them. Now, maybe you met them, I don't know, online or something like that. I'm too old to be into that. But still, at some point, you had to have a face-to-face conversation. So, yes, communication helps build those relationships, or maintaining when you're talking to a friend that you may not have seen in quite a while. So those social interactions, that's how you meet a stranger and they become a friend. Conflict resolution, you kind of get that. Just de-escalating situations, explaining that, oh, I didn't mean that, or I didn't know, or whatever. Also, when it talks about leading to a better understanding of development in self, that means you build your identity based on how people react to you. So let's say you make a joke that you think is funny in your mind. And if people laugh, then that kind of reinforces, oh, I have a good sense of humor. Maybe I'm a funny person. So that kind of that reinforcement becomes a part of your personality. Also, maybe how people react to you. Maybe you don't think of yourself as a threatening person, but maybe, you're, 6'7" and some big 6'7" person, but you could be the friendliest person in the world. But you notice that when you ask for, the directions or how to get somewhere, people maybe kind of shirk away from you. That kind of helps you understand that, okay, maybe I may be being perceived in this particular way. Or maybe that same person, whenever they're talking about something that maybe they know they don't know about, but people seem like they're paying attention, that may be how people are interpreting their competency. Maybe something they haven't even earned. But it gives you an idea of your identity, or at the very least, what people think of you. And that kind of builds and reinforces, who you are. So, also maintaining your physical and mental health. So, there was a study that I want to go over with you guys. So, and while I turn to it on page 6 of the textbook, sometimes just talking to people just helps you with your, just venting, helps you just get through the day or get over some type of situation that you're having trouble dealing with. So, anyway, continuing with the health part, I'm going to read this study that it's kind of more of it, but anyway. So, health. When denied social interaction, our physical and mental health suffers. Even death can ensue. Scholars often cite the extremely unethical language deprivation experiment of German Emperor Frederick II in the 13th century. The emperor allegedly placed 50 newborns in isolation to see what language they would develop on their own. Nurses caring for the babies could feed and bathe the babies, but not hold or talk to them. As Salimbene di Adam, the Italian monk who recorded Frederick II's experiments, wrote, Frederick labored in vain, for the children could not live without clapping of hands, gestures, and gladness of countenance, basically smiles, and blandishment. All of the children died. Current research on the benefits of touch of premature infants has led to changes in some hospitals, such as staff using kangaroo care, bundling an infant close to the body with skin-to-skin contact for an hour or more. For adults, researchers suggest social interactions add 7 to 5 years to the human lifespan. Therefore, greater socialization is as beneficial as not smoking or consuming alcohol and seems to be slightly more beneficial than increased physical activity or weight reduction. Still, other research suggests that strong social interaction can prevent illnesses like heart disease, high blood pressure, and even the common cold. Okay, I don't know about all that, but you kind of get the idea of, the babies, not even having social interaction died very early in life. Moving on. So, just the base definition of human communication. You see it on your screen. Hold on. And even if we're in the classroom, I wouldn't just read the whole thing out for you. Just take a moment, look at it. You may see it again. And we'll talk about some of these aspects of human communication, and we will go through each and every one of these, the intentional, unintentional process, verbal, nonverbal, sharing information. And we will get into that, more of that a little bit later. So, on this slide, you'll notice that there's a little bit in some about this class, and some of it I implement into this current class just because it's just trying to get the best of the best. So when you see something in green, that most likely didn't come from the official textbook of the class. So anyway, still let's go into this. So some qualities of communication. Communication being inescapable. So you can try as hard as you want. You're sending out a message somehow, either by a look that you give a person, maybe just chewing gum in a specific instance. I don't know if you're maybe giving somebody's eulogy. Maybe that's not the time to be smacking on gum or blowing bubbles or whatever. All right, with the gum. So what you wear. So yes, we are. There is. Communication is more than just the words that come out of your mouth. Maybe just the time that you arrive somewhere communicates a message. Maybe you had some trouble. So it's going to happen regardless. So also the things that you do, you can't take back. So you can issue an apology, but for saying something hurtful, but the pain that person has received, that's not just going to instantly go away just because you said, I'm sorry, or just because you deleted a tweet. Whoever read it, whatever target is meant to strike, it struck, and then, maybe there's no evidence of it, but that person still feels it. Also, communication has a system. So maybe, say in a meeting, maybe someone is the first person to speak to give the ideas or objectives for that particular day. So it happens within that particular system, and then maybe at the end there's questions. Also, the context. The message is not always the same depending on when you're talking. So I've had maybe if you have somebody call you really late at night, then it may seem inappropriate because of the time or really early in the morning. But say that same communication interaction occurs during, say, normal business hours, then it doesn't seem inappropriate. Or where. So, maybe somebody, tracks a celebrity down and waits till they're in the bathroom and in a bathroom stall, and then tries to get, ask them some type of paparazzi question or get an autograph when they're, doing their business. So you might, that might be kind of that could be seen as maybe inappropriate. Who you're talking to. Maybe talking to a child the same way that you're talking to an adult. All these contexts occur. These contextual things affect the quality of the message. And just maybe how you communicate. So maybe you've heard of people, I don't know, breaking up over dumping somebody over a text message or something like that. Then yeah, it could still happen, but we all know that there's better ways of doing things like that, and also that gives you a certain perception of this person that would end a relationship via text message. More qualities of communication. Relational. So it depends on the history that you have with that person. So you may be able to, I don't know, leisurely insult someone who's a close friend of yours. But if that were your boss, and say at a job that your boss had a job that you recently accepted, then no, you haven't built that kind of relationship with the person. Cultural. So your beliefs, customs, practices, social behavior. So maybe you believe that if you don't say something back to someone, then it might be rude. I'll give you some examples. Volume. So to some people, talking loud is just how they talk or just how they've communicated within their family. But to other people, it may be seen as aggressive. Talking with the hands. So same thing. It may seem like, okay, this is just how I naturally talk. But to some people, it may be seen as, okay, they're really putting a lot of emphasis in whatever it is that they're saying. Eye contact. So if you're talking to someone and you're not making eye contact, it may be seen as disrespectful. So if you're just talking to somebody and just not really looking at them, then it seems like, okay, you're not going to give me the respect of looking me in my face. But in some cultures, it may be, okay, don't you look at me when you talk to me. You eyeballing me, all that kind of stuff. Being ashy. The reason why I put that, I didn't even check today. The reason why I put that is because that still also gives a message. So, like, one of the reasons, say, when I'm teaching a class, I try to make sure that I'm not ashy because I don't want anybody paying attention to that. I don't want that to distract them from the message that I'm giving. So I've had students like, oh, Mr. Ray, you want some lotion? Or Mr. Ray, you ashy? It's like, I don't care. It don't bother me. But if the person that I'm trying to speak to is distracted by that, then I need to take care of it. So it just shows some of those beliefs, customs, practices. So in certain communities, you don't go out, all ashy because that's just not what you do. So people talk bad about you, you just don't do it. So anyway, also communication is ever changing. So the way that we communicate may not be the same. So it was text messages, and sometimes people use emojis instead of sentences. So it's like, wow, okay. Dynamic, same thing, constantly changing. So a long time ago, people use fires to signal certain things. Snapchat, or I'm not too familiar with TikToks. But anyway, the ways, the means that people are using to communicate, it changes. People may use, also word meanings change. So just because, I don't know, maybe new things are invented, maybe, I don't know, let's say, say saying something is dope. So dope used to mean just narcotics, but now it's a synonym for something that is cool. So anyway, let's see, where am I? Okay, so continuing, still recording. The process of communication. So now, some of these models popped up on my computer. All right. So, some of these models explain that, one-way communication, two-way communication, communication that all occurs at the same time. So let's start first with the linear model. So linear, basically going in one way. So basically just talks about a message going from a sender to a receiver. So yeah, one-way communication. Some essential components, and we'll be talking more about components of different types of communication are sender, receiver, noise, message, and channel. So, and I'm going to show you this a little bit, show some visual representations of this. So, this is one of the models that's in the book. I'll include others from other books later on. But with this particular instance, okay, sender, the person who initiates the communication. I hope you're following my little cursor mouse here. So the person who basically starts the conversation. So the channel is the way that you decide to send out that information. So whether that's shouting to someone, or maybe whether it's sending something via email. So that channel is just whatever pathway you choose. So if you pass a note to someone, then guess what? That note, that's the channel. So sender, channel, receiver, the person who basically receives and interprets the message. They don't have to do, they have to, understand what's being said, but that's their goal. Just, okay, hearing and understanding, okay? Now, some other things that can occur is noise. Noise, things that interfere with the message being relayed. So noise can occur in the sender, it can occur in the receiver, and it can occur in the message, or within the channel, sorry. So it could be maybe within the channel if you're yelling to somebody, if it's also loud, that's noise. Or maybe if the sender, I don't know, maybe they use terminology that most people don't understand. They're not breaking it down. Then that's noise caused by the sender. The receiver, maybe the receiver is hungry, sleepy. Maybe they just don't like the person who's speaking to them. So that mental anger can affect how they receive a message. So if they have a problem with the person sending the message, then they may interpret things differently. And let's see, did I miss anything? Yeah, the message. It could be verbal, nonverbal, whatever is being actually said. And yeah, talked about these just now, but starts communication. Oh, they decide how the message will be delivered. So that is on the sender. So I'm sure you've had at times when you were going to communicate with someone and then you decide, okay, well, maybe I need to call them. I know some people, and I'm to the certain extent, I'm the same way. Also, if I'm texting with somebody and it goes back and forth, after about after I send 3 messages, they send 3 messages, or, then it's like, we just need to put this in a phone call. So, and I may decide, okay, I'm just going to call. Or if it's something too complicated to just, put in a text message, then as the sender, me, I'll decide to call a person. So that's me deciding how the message will be delivered. Yeah, message, idea sender is trying to convey, verbally, non-verbally. Let's see, receiver, you got that. Yeah, method used to send a message, text message. So I think you guys are good on this one. So going into more detail about noise. So noise, of course, anything that interferes with the message, but internal noise could be physiological barriers. So if someone has a hearing impairment or some type of hearing damage, then that's noise within the listener. So Doesn't matter if the sender gives out the message clearly. You got 5G connection over your telephone carrier, but if the person has a hearing impairment, then it's gonna affect things, or possibly sleep deprivation. If your brain isn't functioning well, if you're so sleepy, you're seeing things, then yeah, it's gonna be kind of hard to interpret information coming your way. Psychological barriers, anger, fear, prejudice. So if someone is angry and they're listening, then they're quickly to pick up on things that they would think would be an insult. So fear, maybe if the listener's afraid, they may be hearing threats where a threat was not intended, or maybe some type of prejudice or stereotype. Someone may say something and they just assume, oh yeah, well, they come from this particular background, or they're talking about, I don't know, some type of previous criminal background, when it's like, no, it didn't have anything to do with that. So, external noise, things in the environment such as loud sounds, room temperature can contribute to that as well. Why am I anyway? So if it's hot, if you sweating while you're listening to somebody, or just uncomfortable, then you aren't going to be paying as much attention. So that can create noise. Linguistic barriers, things such as using, I don't know if you've ever talked to anybody who's been in the military, but sometimes, especially when they're talking about military life, or their military past or things, they tend to use all these. I can't even begin. I haven't been in the military, so I can't use them. But they use a lot of jargon. So also, it's not specific just to the military. There's lots of fields where they use terminology that people in that field understand it, but that person, if they're talking to someone outside of that field, they need to explain it, or use different words. Difficult vocabulary, just using big words that people may not understand. So I wouldn't say use the word I don't know, defamation, say, when talking to a 5-year-old. I say, oh well, they just made them look bad. Okay, it gave a negative impression of this particular person or business or something. So this is the just a different way of visually representing the linear model. So in my opinion, I like this one a little bit better because it's just more simple. You got the source, you got the message, you got the receiver, and of course noise can occur. The reason why I have this here is because noise can occur at any part during this process. So, yep. Yeah. More noise. So, communication can also be interactional, basically meaning two ways. So think of maybe an interview. So in an interview, the boss or interviewer is asking the questions, and the interviewee is listening to the questions, hears, understands, and gives a response. Now, something about this model is that that's different from the linear model is that it adds more feedback and context. So feedback is basically responding to the message. Also, context is, the situation in which it occurs. So, this is another visual representation within, your textbook has about this, and it's going to work either way. Either on, let's see, do I have another model here? Okay, well, still, the sender sends the message, receiver decodes it, and basically they give their feedback to the sender. So let's see, yeah, that feedback can be verbal or nonverbal. It could be maybe someone just shifting their weight in their chair. It could be just giving a frown. It could be someone rolling their eyes because you said something. So, yeah. I'm trying to think, is there anything else I want to add to this? The context. Yeah, the situation in which the communication takes place. So maybe somebody's running late for something. So if the sender is going to maybe have to give that message very quickly because this person is leaving out the door, they got to go, I don't know, maybe pick up their kids from school or something. Late for a job interview, I don't know. But because of that, they have to communicate quickly. And even if they do communicate quickly, the receiver may think, I don't know, maybe even just think that the person is rude because why would you stop and try to talk to me right now? Because you know that I've got such and such, or just because I've got such and such going on, now's not a good time, but you're still trying to talk to me. So that context is still there. So going into that feedback, verbal, nonverbal responses to a message. Yeah. Oh, and the context can be broken down into a couple of different things. So physical, where you're talking, how many people you're talking to. So if you're talking to a bunch of people, maybe you're trying to make eye contact to all of them. Maybe you're speaking louder. Time of day, if you're talking to someone and it's, I don't know, maybe it's early in the morning, you're not going to be all, hey, and just be super duper loud and have so much energy, because it's like, dude, tone it down. So relational, depends on whether it's a friend, maybe it's a stranger, maybe it's your boss. You communicate differently based on who you're talking to. Psychological, state of mind, emotions, confidence. So if maybe you're feeling emotional, maybe you're feeling some kind of way about something, and you know that, okay, I need to be real careful with my words. Okay, I don't want to end up going off on this person. So I'm gonna be real cautious with how I approach. So that'd be like a psychological. That'd be like a state of mind, or maybe you're not confident in what you're saying. So or not be. We can do this if you want to, or something like that. I like this. It's how can I put it? It's kind of like not being confident in whatever it is that you're saying. Now, I think so that may affect how you're speaking to someone, or maybe you just don't know what you're talking about. So some of you, maybe you've been given a speech or been put on the spot to speak about something, and if you know what you're talking about, you feel 100% great about it. If you've practiced and all that, you're ready. But if you don't have that, then that presentation or whatever sounds a lot much, it's completely different. I'm going to move on now. All right. So with this interactional one, it's another representation of it. So let me get my mouse here. So source encodes the message, sends the message to the receiver. The receiver gives feedback. Let's see, is that showing up? Okay. Yeah. The receiver gives feedback, and maybe the source has to adapt the message in order to make sure that the receiver understands it. So if you're talking, I don't know, maybe some type of business lingo, you talk about the ROI of this business is high, and the person's like, I don't know what that means. So then the return on investment, then how much money you're going to get back from putting money into this particular business. It's like, oh, okay, I understand now. So anyway, this is another model for interactional mode of speaking, process of communication. Now, hold on, let me go back. Now we're going to the transactional process. This is different. It's not interactional. With the transactional process, it goes over how sender and receiver how someone can be a sender and receiver at the same time. So just lots of communication going on all over the place. And yeah, so emphasizes simultaneous negotiation between meaning and communicators as they respond to each other and the context. So what does this mean? Simply, communicators act as senders and receivers simultaneously. So sending verbal messages while an example would be sending a verbal message while receiving a nonverbal message. So you may be talking to somebody and you know that they don't agree with you. You know they're just ready to shut you down. Or you may not know it, but you'll know it now because if you're talking to somebody and they're just shaking their head, just already giving you negative feedback, then you may want to adjust your message like, okay, yeah, I know you think this doesn't work or isn't feasible, but let me break this down. So based on that nonverbal communication, I'm adjusting my message and I'm addressing what I think they may have a problem with. So they communicated with me, they have a problem with this, they don't believe in it. I'm responding back with some more supporting evidence. So now also with the this particular model that you're about to see, it adds background and common ground into the equation. So with background, that's how they were brought up, who they've been around, the stuff that influenced them before they got to, meeting you. So yeah, who you are, your past, present, maybe future expectations, emotions, maybe. So maybe the history of your culture that may play a factor into a communication experience. So common ground is maybe one person comes from a big family, the other person comes from a big family. That's something that they can talk about. Or maybe I'm a parent, you're a parent, and that's something that we can kind of bond over. So it's the overlap between between two people, their identities or their experiences. So, or maybe just being from the same hometown. So even if they don't know the same people, they may, have heard of the same places or like to go eat at, some place that both of them enjoy. So now looking at this visually. Let's see if I put the other model in here. Yep, I put both of them. So with transactional, honestly, I don't know which model is better for you, but we'll go over both of them a little bit. So you have your communicator, the person who's speaking, but they're also receiving a message. Like, I don't know, just looking at this guy here, looks like he's got like some dreamy eyes, looking in this direction. She's not giving him dreamy eyes back. That's a message without even saying any words. So their background. So maybe the life experiences. So maybe her background is when you meet somebody for the first time, put on like a blanket smile. Okay, that could come into the communication process. And even maybe the guy is telling him some heartwarming news or whatever. And just probably putting too much into this, but background life experiences. His background may be, okay, when you talk to somebody, you lean in real close and you make deep eye contact. So that comes into how you communicate, maybe what people think. So common ground, maybe age. They're from the same, same part of the country. So with this common ground, so it's not just using words that the other person may understand. It could also be, okay, I'm going to communicate and give you body language that shows that I accept you. And because you come from, a similar background, we both know that, hey, this is, they're not being aggressive with me. They're just maybe showing me just basic human respect. So according to where they come from. And when you have that common ground, it's just easier to, you're basically speaking the same language. So, and this is just another model that may help you understand that. This doesn't have the background and common ground, but just basically the sender, and receiver kind of, I guess, cross-mixing. What's the word? I forgot the word. Anyway, just another visual representation of that model. And no, this model won't be, on a test or anything. And I think we're going to stop there for this video. And next one I'll probably finish up the rest of chapter 1. So thanks for watching.